Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Paramahansa Yogananda ji, saints of all religions, friend and guide Swami Kriyananda, we humbly bow to you all. Guide us in our time together. Help us to dive deeply, to be open and receptive to thy divine grace, and to share this divine light and love and joy with each other and with all. Om, peace. Amen.
Okay. The first song I'd like to do this morning is it's called The Birds of the Air. It was written by our friend Bharat Cornell up at Ananda Village as part of his Sharing Nature program. And I would like to give this to Bharat right now. The birds of the air are my brothers, all flowers my sisters, the trees are my friends, all living creatures, mountains and streams, I take unto my care. For this green earth is our mother, hidden in the sky is the spirit above. I share one life with all who are here. To everyone I give my love. To everyone I give my love. The birds of the air are my brothers, all flowers my sisters, the trees are my friends, all living creatures, mountains and streams, I take unto my care. For this green earth is our mother, hidden in the sky is the spirit above. I share one life with all who are here. To everyone I give my love. To everyone I give my love. The birds of the air are my brothers, all flowers my sisters, the trees are my friends, all living creatures, mountains and streams, I take unto my care. For this green earth is our mother, hidden in the sky is a spirit above. I share one life with all who are here. To everyone I give my love. To everyone I give my love. I share one life with all who are here. To everyone I give my love. To everyone I give my Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om.
Relax into the sound of Om, however you perceive it, in meditation for a couple of moments. remaining in your stillness. Let's share these words from Swami Kriyananda on contentment. Contentment has been said to be the supreme virtue. Contentment means living to the fullest, the good of every passing moment. Above all, it means living behind the present moment, in the eternal now. How much is lost in life by people who perennially wish things other than they are, who complain unceasingly and tell themselves that the world owes them more than it is giving them. We must smile inwardly with God, knowing that life is her dream. Contentment is the surest way of drawing the very best out of every circumstance. So we'll use Master's method of doing this affirmation, starting strongly, outwardly, and then gradually pulling it inward, owning it, taking it deep within our own consciousness. Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
I am contented.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
Now in a whisper, through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
For I hold in my heart God's peace.
Silently outwardly, but very strong within. Through life's mightiest storms, I am contented. For I hold in my heart God's peace. Pray silently with me. Take this deep. Lord, as you live eternally at rest in yourself, so let me live also, contented ever, that I may be worthy of living in your joy. Om. Peace. Amen.
This week's Ray's reading, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda based on the teachings of our Master. Can man see God? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. There is a saying in chapter 1 of the Gospel of St. John that would seem to respond with a definite no to the question, can man see God? The saying is, no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. Many great saints, however, claim to have seen God. If we ask then, can God be seen rather than can man see God? The answer is yes. Else those saints lied and the scriptures themselves lied. For Jesus also said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The point is, it is not man, this human body, these human eyes, that sees God. God can be seen only with spiritual vision, with the eye of the soul. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 11th chapter, thou cannot see me without mortal eyes. thou canst not see me with mortal eyes. Therefore, I now give thee sight divine. Behold my supreme power of yoga. With these words, Hari, the exalted Lord of yoga, revealed himself to Arjuna in his infinite form. Paramhansa Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, describes the supernal experience in words more readily comprehensible to modern minds than the poetic phraseology of the Bhagavad Gita. The chapter, An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, is one of the most inspiringly beautiful in all mystical literature. Here is a brief excerpt. An oceanic joy broke upon calm, endless shores of my soul. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. I saw the divine dispersion of rays pour from an eternal source, blazing into galaxies, transfigured with ineffable auras. Again and again, I saw the creative beams condense into constellations, then resolve into sheets of transparent flame. By rhythmic reversion, sextillion worlds passed into diaphanous luster. Fire became firmament. I cognized the center of the empyrean as a point of intuitive perception in my heart. Irradiating splendor issued from my nucleus to every part of the universal structure. The creative voice of God I heard resounding as Om, the vibration of the cosmic motor. This, so the masters aver, is what God is. And this also, they insist, is what we are in our deepest reality. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, peace. Amen.
I've heard your flute high on a cloud. Your call I can't resist. Oh, let me come and play with you. We'll scatter music with a dew and sound the morning mist. I've heard you piping on a hill. All else I've set aside. Oh, let us dance the mountain peaks. We'll skip with breezes on the creeks and soar the valleys wide. Your flute has called me to the fields. Now I've no place to live. Don't send me back, rejected friend. Whatever I call mine must end. All that I am I give. I heard your flute in every tree, in every flower and stream, and sweetest melody of all, a song that heaven's joy recalls. Here in my heart you see.
A reading now from Whispers from Eternity. Prayer Demands by Paramahansa Yogananda. I am here. Alone, I roamed by the ocean shore and watched the wrestling waves in brawling roar, bounding with thine own restless life. I saw thee in thy angry mood, tossing and foaming, until the very vastness of thy wrath made me shiver and turn away in dread from so much violence and strife. And then I walked inland. A kindly spreading sentinel tree waved friendly arms to comfort me, consoling me with gentler look sublime. Its leaves and branches swayed in tender lullaby rhyme, conveying a message that I knew was thine. Above me high, I saw the gaugeless mystic sky, and childlike, in dim valleys, I sought to pry out thy secrets and to play with thee. In vain, alas, did I seek thee hiding there, cloud-robbed, foam-sprayed, leaf-garland, too elusive for mortal eyes to see or ears to hear. And yet I knew that thou wert always near, as if playing hide and seek with me, receding each time when I almost touched thee. I groped for thee in the maddening complex folds of dark ignorance, as old as time itself is old. At last I ceased my search, almost in despair. What hope had I of finding thee, thou royal sly eluder? Thou art, I know, everywhere, yet thou seemest nowhere, lost in unplumbed space, where none may clasp thee or behold thy face. Yes, despairing, I ceased my fruitless search, turned huffily away from thee. My ploy was unsuccessful. Still no answer from the wrathful sea, and only whispers from the friendly tree. Naught but silence from the limitless blue sky, silence from valleys low and mountains high. Like a hurt child, within the depths of me, I hid and sulked, no longer seeking thee. And then, lo, suddenly, unheralded, an unseen hand snatched from my eyes that all-black band, which had blinded me so long with fold on fold. No longer weary, but filled with strength untold, I stood and gazed again, a laughing sea instead of wrathful roars, a gay, glad world with mystically opening doors, with only mists of dreams between. Someone beside me stood unseen and whispered to me, calm and clear, "Hello, playmate, I am here." Hello, great souls. Thank you so much for inviting me to be with you. It's a true blessing and joy. The reading today, the affirmation and the reading of rays, as I've been sitting with them, it's often interesting to me what gets paired. So contentment with divine sight, and how those two go together, how they fit together, and so I want to share a little bit about that, and then also this idea that the human mortal eyes, as it says in the reading, we can't see the divine. We don't have divine sight with human consciousness or ego consciousness. It's super consciousness, a soul sight, as Yogananda calls it, that allows us to perceive God's presence and to know it to be real. So I was sitting with that and just kind of, sitting with the question, how do I know the difference between mortal sight and divine sight? And when I was reading the Whispers prayer demand, I loved how Yogananda, Master, was talking about the difference. There's the mortal sight and trying to see God, and we imagine God in different ways, and we impose on God. We impose on what we're seeing our sense of what God is, which is not the same as divine sight. That when we have divine sight, we look at the same thing, but something else is perceived. And we recognize the difference, which is what the reading is saying, the Whispers is saying, suddenly, and very sweetly also, the frustration that we can feel, I have felt in the divine search, where I don't have any contentment, right? No, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. This is all wrong. And where are you? And what's happening? I don't get it. And unanswered prayers, right? Seeking a sense of consolation and comfort and reassurance. And those moments when it's not present, it doesn't feel present, and how to navigate that, how to move through that. I was reading earlier one of Master's books, how you can talk with God. We'll get that closer. So this comes from a little book from SRF, and I found it at our bookstore. So just reading that, and one of the things that Master says in there is persistence, right, and sincerity. And he speaks of a Bengali, I think he said it was Bengali, saying and teaching that Divine Mother cannot resist a sincere prayer. And I remember the first time I'd heard that, right? That so really it's so consoling. It's such an encouragement of hang in there, be sincere, and keep seeking, right? Because Divine Mother can't resist it. Right? So the God will respond, won't be able to not respond to us. And a little bit of contrast in the Whispers reading, where even when we turn away, right, discouraged, forget it, I'm done. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been my experience. God doesn't go away. And God doesn't go away. Just stays with us, is still present, still offering love, offering divine sight, reassurance. And then miraculously, there are these moments where suddenly it happens and we recognize the difference. It's been my experience in my own life, and the joy of sitting with others when they talk about these moments of divine sight, of knowing, of feeling God's presence. And it has a quality to it that it always, I can feel the truth of it. Absolutely, absolutely. Very different than stringing together from mortal eyes an idea of this is God telling me something. So I'll put it in this context. In the teachings, yoga teachings of the 3 levels of awareness, we have subconscious, which is patterns, habit patterns, right? Subjective ideas about reality, likes and dislikes, that's our subconscious. So then conscious, problem solving, figuring out, analyzing. What Swami Kriyananda, and I'm going to guess here Yogananda, because all of Swami's teachings are Yogananda's teachings, is problem consciousness. In our world, we don't think of it that way. Solving problems is revered, certainly in business and in many ways. Like that's kind of can be seen as the highest. But in yoga, it's not the highest, right? The difference between intuition, introspection, jnana, discernment, discrimination, where divine sight happens. We perceive a higher reality for a situation versus I've figured out the answer. The answer can come, but in my experience, I know for certain I didn't figure it out. I know for certain that I didn't. Even if once it's perceived, all the logic lines up, right? Sometimes it doesn't line up logically, but sometimes it lines up perfectly. But I still know I didn't get there that way at all, right? So these teachings of the levels of consciousness. So when I'm with someone, I'll say this when I'm with someone and also for myself. So if I'm with someone else and they're wondering if it's a sign from God, is this divine sight? Am I being guided? Right? What I can say is that every time, well, how can I put this into words? Inspiration is what I want to say. When someone else has touched divine sight, I feel inspired by what they're sharing with me. I feel God's presence. I feel it. And I just feel like, I can't say it's God, but it sure feels like God. So when they're saying to me, I'm feeling guided, and I listen and I get this awe quality, the sacred, the instinct is a sense of hush. Just be very, very, very quiet now. God is here. I feel it. And they're saying it to me in the same way, right? It's this kind of tentative, do you think it could be God? Right? And I feel like, yes, I do. I do. It's very, very different than mortal eyes, problem solving, figuring out, right? It's a very different quality. It, that just doesn't feel the same. Again, I can't say whether it's God or not. Of course, I can't say that. I can't say it in my own life, but what I do know and what I can say is when it has a quality of calm or joy or clarity that Swami identifies as the three qualities of intuition. In Intuition for Starters. Love that book. Still read it. I'm practicing a long time. I feel like, yep, still a starter. I still can glean grace from the teachings. And so those qualities, is there a sense of calmness in the direction, in the guidance, in the divine sight? Is there a hint of joy? Is it clear? Not at all muddied, not vague, absolute clarity. And what I find, I've been reflecting on it more and more lately, is that I'm mostly given a direction. I don't think I've ever been given an outcome. I've imposed outcomes on direction, lots. I went, oh, that's where I'm headed, and that's what it's going to look like. That's not always the case at all. But I do get direction. I do, so sometimes it can be very clearly do this or head this way. And again, I've seen that with others, clear. So, pairing contentment, there is a quality of rightness. When I think about contentment and the beautiful affirmation of resting in a place of peace, there is that quality I've observed with divine sight. Somehow it's okay. Somehow it's okay. Somehow what's unfolding right now, and I might really not like what's unfolding right now, or I might be with someone else, right? They're really not liking what's unfolding right now. But when divine sight is there, there's a peace. There's a sense of okayness about it. There's some deep soul sight that is helping to move forward and stay open to God, right? Stay open to grace. I know it to be true that I need that grace to navigate this world. I need it. So even if I've gotten some guidance or I'm walking with someone else and they have guidance. I'm just calling as strongly as I can for the grace to fill me and give me that strength that I need, right, to walk through something difficult. I was reflecting on just different situations and moments of divine grace. And I was feeling, as I was going to come to be with you all today, that I feel certain everyone here has experienced divine sight. Now, I could be wrong, but when to come to something like this, to be part of this, to be, each of you giving energy to this and this beautiful community, it's just my experience that it's a touch of divine sight inspires that kind of activity, that willingness to come on a Sunday morning and listen to someone speak and help out, do the music, do a reading. Every part of this is service, every part of it, satsang. Divine sight for me, it's all behind that, this kind of thing. So I just want to say, I feel I am preaching to the choir. Now look at his preaching, but I feel like I'm with friends who really know what this reading, the meaning of it, right? This teaching. So I was thinking about, moments when it's been hard to hear, see, perceive divine sight. Other times it wasn't hard, but just as awe-inspiring. So some of the times where it's been most difficult is in the realm of social justice. And I have a background in Catholicism. I became Catholic in my 20s and became, one of the things I was very drawn to in the Catholic Church was service. There was just so many opportunities to serve. Again, it was all divine is what I want to say. It was not a logical process, and it was something at all. So at one time, I was director of a lay missionary program. And I was with a incredible order called the Claretians, very progressive priests and brothers who follow St. Anthony Claret of Spain. Interestingly, Swami mentions the Claretians in the New Path, that when he was thrown out of SRF, he stayed with the Claretians in Southern California. I knew the Claretians in Chicago. I thought, so there's these little things, coincidence, whatever, but it's a small order relatively. And very often in the Catholic world, if I mention the Claretians, no one has any idea who I'm talking about. So the Swami stayed with them. I was like, what? They took you in? They took Swami in? So anyway, what I want to say that part of my role was to help the volunteers, the lay missionaries, practice what we call in yoga nishkam karma, which is to serve without attachment to the outcome, right? And to really nourish your spiritual life so that everything you're doing is a reflection of that. So karma yoga, right? That we're really, it's God serving God, as we say in the yoga practice. And in social justice, it can be particularly difficult because you're dealing with some of the most challenging things in our material realm. And, you're wanting to help transform that and change that. So but to come to it with a spirit of humility and receptivity and listening for divine guidance and being able to walk, I will say, courageously through difficulty. I feel it applies in our whole life. It's not just social justice, but that kind of was magnified the practice, right? To be able to walk through something without my own agenda, without my own certainty of how things should go, what it should look like. And if it doesn't look like that, then my evaluation of it being worthy or not, having any significance or not. One of the things that's very true about that kind of ministry is how powerless you feel, how whatever it is you're facing, how big it is, and how easy it is to, well, I'm going to say it on either side, how easy it is to feel insignificant, like you didn't do anything, or to be on an ego trip. Neither are the highest. The ego trip being I did a lot, right? I did a lot. See all the good work. So anyways, it was in my mind and in my consciousness as an experience of being able to, so in the midst of this time, a story I was reminded of came to me of, I was heading into work. I happened to be taking, we lived in Chicago then. This was downtown where I worked, where the office was. And if you know the Chicago at all, we were in Hyde Park. So we were close to South Chicago, but just in front of it. So I was taking a taxi in, and the man who picked me up was just exhausted from having argued with his brother all night. And he was beside himself from this break in the family and anyway, he just couldn't help it. So when I got in, he told me everything on the way in, right? And was telling me this fight and everything. And I was just sitting there praying. I was just praying. Like I didn't really know what to say. I could feel he was distraught. He really was. And telling me all this. And in essence, was so upset with his brother. And, can you believe it? I remember that kind of thing. Can you believe it? Could you believe he would do whatever his brother had done, would do this, whatever. And I just felt how hard it was. And he was really at this place of, I don't know what's going to happen to my family now. And, where there's this big fight. And so then we get to the office, and I really feel divinely, I just like, the thought came to me to offer him a little lifesaver. It was a mint, I think it was a lifesaver. And I said, would you like a mint, a lifesaver or something? And I remember he turned and looked at me, and this wave of appreciation is what I want to say. He just felt so much kindness and compassion. I could see it in that offering. And he had a moment of realizing I'd been silently listening to him the whole time, and that he'd been talking the whole time, very upset. And he just saw, I could tell, he felt seen. He felt cared about. He felt like we connected. And I gave him the mint. He took it and he just said, thank you. And I said, you're welcome, and he took it, and that was it, got it. What I felt from God is, this is ministry. And so often it's never seen. No one else witnesses it, but I do, right? And those involved, they do. And I remembered it as something to share with the lay missionaries and the volunteers, to say, so much of the work you're doing, no one's going to see, no matter what it is, even if it's great, even if it all turns out exactly as you hope it will. Sometimes it does. Other times, not at all. And you think, wow, what was that day worth, right? And I have seen this in regular life too. What was that day worth? Master says at the end of the day, take stock and ask the question from the Gita, from the Mahabharata, right? Sanjaya, how did they, right? Which is the question of introspection. And from the blind king. So, Master in Whispers is taking the blindfold off, so we have divine sight. How did they? How did it go today? Some days it can feel like not very well. Not very well, right? But what I know with divine sight is the very fact that I'm asking the question. That's a good thing. Very fact that I'm ending the day seeking God's presence, inviting God in. That's a very good thing. Battle went better than I realized. Right? If I'm asking at all, and that's Master's teaching, right? Because unworthiness, boy, I've just seen it in my life, and I've seen it with others, fellow guru bhais, fellow travelers, how easy it is to misjudge our own journey and think we're not doing very well. And Master's saying it takes very, 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 very good karma to even want to know God. Right? Can we know God? Can we see God? Yes, we can. We can. We do. And when we've got the samadhi prayer, which to me is like, wow, what will be? you know, what to look forward to, that divine sight. That's remarkable divine sight. And all along the way, smaller but no less remarkable experiences of certainty. God is here. God is here. I feel God. I see God. I know God. I'm not alone. Nothing is missed. Right? So that moment in the cab, in hearing, feeling God saying to me, this is ministry. And mostly no one ever sees it. But I always see it. Right? So just live in that. Just do your best. Right? It's so humble so much of the time. And that's really the best way. Right? It's very freeing, I find. Right? It's very freeing. Like, okay, it's all yours, God. I'm doing my best. It's all yours. You're the one who's you've got to make it better if it's going to be better, because I can't. And God's never really even asking any of that from me, from us. That's just my experience. So I love what Swami, can the ego see God? No. From that perspective, we can't. We can think we can. That's what's tricky about it. But can God be seen? Yes. Yes. Do we all have that capacity? Yes. It's our own soul nature. It's our birthright to live in the truth, to see the truth, to share the truth. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a moment. Just sit with that and just feel yourself really welcoming that blessing of God's presence as you have known it and as you continue to seek it. Lift the inward gaze toward the spiritual eye. As we close today, we'll send out healing vibrations, divine energy, a wave of grace to everyone, reminding the planet, the universe, right? Calling forth that inner divinity, our own highest self and the highest in all. If there's anyone in particular you want to send healing energy to, see them shining with light, filled with divine light, awakened in their soul nature. We'll pray together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all these thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in these bodies, minds, and souls. Rubbing our hands together, feel yourself drawing from the medulla energy into the body, prana, life force. God's presence directed to the spiritual eye. We'll send it out with hands raised with 3 ohms. Okay, great soul. So we have a little time to check in, and you can share if you'd like to. I can be here till just before 12:15. No one has to stay, but if anyone would just like to share anything about the readings today or anything in your heart, I'm wide open, and this is a moment for that. Yeah, Robin Michelle. I can't hear you. Can anyone else? You're not muted, but I couldn't hear you. No one else can hear? Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay. Oh, wait. Robin Michelle, do you have headphones? Sometimes my computer will do that where, and the other thing you could do is leave and come back. Does she have to be admitted in? Can she just come right back in? Because I know Robin was admitting people, I think. Now I can't hear you. That's odd, but you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, I hear Sean. Let's do a sound check. I can hear Sean. I don't hear Pam and Sam. Billy, you want to say something? That's the oddest thing. I don't hear Billy. Isn't that funny? Can't hear it. One thing that's so odd, I've had this experience with OMS before at the end of a private session. Okay, wait, Sam's got something.